Hello, friends. I'm so excited to bring you this next, this newest Ask the Coach because Linda is somebody that I want to aspire to be. I want to have the ease and comfort that she has with mealtime and lunches and dinners. Well, just dinners, but the joy she brings back to food, especially for moms who are running like crazy. Because I mean, what parent isn't nowadays running like crazy all over the place from work to sports to school to all the things? But Linda is here to share some information with us on how to make that mealtime prep and mealtime a lot more fun. So, Linda, can you introduce yourself? Say a little bit about yourself and where you come from, what do you got going, and all the fun things about you.
Sure. Thanks for having me here, Stephanie. My name's Linda Letterman, and I'm the founder of Balaboosta's Secret. And people say, well, what the heck is a Balaboosta, and why is it a secret, and what's it all about? So, a Balaboosta is an old-fashioned Yiddish term that means a woman who makes a fine home. And I have to tell you, my fine home is the anti-Stewart, Martha Stewart home. I want the home where people want to come, they want to put their feet up, they don't need a coaster for their glass. They know they're going to have great conversation, great food, great fun, and your home feels like their home. And what parent wouldn't want that? I mean, it's so fulfilling on a personal level and on a parent level. You want to know your kids' friends. You want to know who they're hanging out with, what they're interested in, what they're getting into, and you want them to feel comfortable enough to confide in you should they need to ever confide in you. So it's a win-win all around. And so I teach moms how to make this wonderful atmosphere in their home. We all know that food has so many memories associated with it, so many celebrations. And I believe you don't have to wait for a major celebration to make your ordinary meals extraordinary.
I love that. I know that growing up, I tried to run out of my house all the time to go to my friends' houses. But once I had kids of my own, I always said I wanted to be the it house, right? The house that all the kids came to, that they knew the front door was always open and the pantry was always filled. I love hearing when my kids get home from school, they're like, Mom, I had the best lunch and I shared it with like 3 friends. And I was like, so what did you eat today then? But it's the idea that they always look and have fun with food. So I love what you are doing. What got you started though with like this version, aside from like you wanted that, obviously I would assume for your own house and that's what you created at home, but what made you want to share that with others?
Well, I have to start off by saying I used to be a really lousy cook, really bad. And when I was in high school, I said to my mom, who was also a mediocre cook, Mom, your food is terrible, And so she said to me, all right, big shot, you're going to cook. And at the time, she bought me a book called The Joy of Cooking, which was a huge, almost like dictionary sized book with no pictures. Well, that didn't help me. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what the ingredients looked like, what the prep looked like, what the final dish was supposed to look like. But this was now my new responsibility. So the first time I made Swedish meatballs, and anybody who knows me knows I know nothing about Sweden or Swedish meatballs. No clue. They were horrible. My family laughed at me, but it was my first time out, so I got a pass. The next week I made veal cordon bleu. Now I can't even say it right now, so imagine how I said it way back then. It was atrocious. By the time I made my third meal, I was actually banned from cooking. Banned. And instead of taking this as a woe is me, I guess I'll just make crappy meals for the rest of my life, I took it upon me and I said, game on. It's not rocket scientists. It's not rocket science. I'm going to learn this. And I took cooking classes. I now have over 1,000 cookbooks. I've done everything you can possibly imagine in cooking to the point where I became a really terrific cook. And the way I got into this as a profession was I'm a lawyer by profession. And I had my kids at a late age, so I took some time off from working as a lawyer. And as my kids got a little older, they would have friends come over for sleepovers, and we'd be at the dinner table. And I wasn't doing the takeout pizza, I was actually cooking dinner for them. And they would say to me, my mom doesn't cook like this. We don't have this much fun at the table. Can you teach her how to do it? And from the mouth of babes, my business was born.
I love that because I think truly hearing it from other kids is super gratifying, humbling. I don't know. When people like come to my table, I always love hearing that they enjoyed it. When they can walk away happy, full, come back for seconds. I mean, I have a 12-year-old boy who just feels the need to eat all of the time. So when they actually compliment you on what you made, you're like, yes, I actually did something. He's not just eating it because he's hungry. He's eating it because he wants food. So it's super awesome to hear that it was because of your kids and their friends that you took the leap. I think it's super interesting that you are a lawyer by trade. That is not necessarily one that you would expect to be in this profession or in this job title. So was it because I know you now talk to those busy moms, those professional moms who are running a million miles, working day jobs, and dinner is like the dreaded what are we eating? I swear there's certain weeks where I'm like, if I hear what are we eating for dinner again, I'm leaving. I'm leaving the front door. And I stay home, so I can only imagine what it's like being, I remember working in corporate America and how hard that, hearing that for the third time while you're trying to prep and do, and you're still haven't even taken your heels off. You're like, really? So is it more so you want to talk to those professional moms and help those professional moms because you were one and that's what really makes you want to talk to them so badly?
It's a combination of a lot of things. I think deep down inside, I really feel that everyone, whether they're working moms, stay-at-home moms, we're all busy as moms. And I think that we're missing out on a personal level, and our family is missing out by not having family meals. And they don't have to be elaborate, they don't have to be complex, but the study shows that kids who sit down to a family meal actually do better in school. They're better socially adjusted. They have better communication skills. They're less likely to abuse illegal substances. So, on top of all the wonderful funness of it all, why wouldn't you want those experiences for your family?
I I agree 100%. I came from a house that we always, every night, didn't matter what sports you had, didn't matter what, my parents' work schedule was. We all sat down to dinner every single night, every day of the week, and had family dinner. It wasn't just a Sunday thing, it was an every night thing. We would talk over dinner, we would see how the person's day was, what you learned at school, what was going on with friends. I mean, like it was time to conversate, network, you know what I mean? I always say it's networking, but it's more of just the download of learning about the people that are living in the home with you. As a parent, it's also to keep a pulse on what is going on in your kids' lives because I have teens now, and sometimes getting out of them what they did at school today. I mean, I asked my second grader and I was like, what'd you do at school today? He's like, nothing. I was like, so you were at school for 8 hours today and you did nothing? He's like, I mean, the same thing. So it's been fun to sit down and hear what they want to tell you, hear what excited them about the day, and what they took out of it might be different than you took out of it, even though we were all at the same thing. But I know for our family, that has been something super important. And a lot of my kids' friends agree with you on the concept of it's fun coming together as a family to dinner, to be able to just chat and learn.
It's funny that you said that you ask your kids, what'd you do in school today? Because when I work with my moms, it's one of the things that I request they don't ask. Because the kids kind of know that question's coming.
You're right.
So you're not going to get necessarily that free flow answer. So when I work with them on their meal planning and their meal prep and their cooking, I pepper it with, well, how can we have fun at the dinner table tonight? What
Yeah.
games can we play? What conversations can we start that aren't How was your school today? And you get the answer, good. What'd you do? Nothing. And you just want to shoot yourself because that's horrific. So I try to incorporate other things that we can say, as well as teaching them the food aspect of dinner time.
So yes, I have heard that. So we started because we were getting that response so many times of like, well, what did you learn today? And we get nothing. We asked them, what was exciting today? Just to kind of see what their thought process was, or what was your favorite subject today? Because that'll change depending on if we had a movie in this class, or we had a really fun gym class, or, you know, my boys are very into their gym class. So it's fun to hear what they actually did today. And half the time it's about walking in the hallways than it is about class, but it's fine. It's great. We love it. So can you explain how you go about coaching everyone in the way of making dinner more enjoyable?
Sure. You know, it really it starts with your mindset. You know, and if you go into it saying, oh my God, it's dinner time, I'm miserable, I don't know what to make, that's going to affect the quality of your food as well as your presence at the dinner table. So if we're going to limit the talking immediately for conversations at the dinner table, I try not to focus necessarily on the day activities of my family. I'd like to play some kind of a game that will get them talking so I get to know them in a very different way. So I'll give you an example. So there's a thing called Chicken Boy Day. And it started out in California. There was an advertising agency, and on top of their roof, they had this humongous statue that was a human boy's body with a chicken head. It was ridiculous because it was an advertising agency. And fast forward many years after that, they went out of business, and the new owner wanted to get rid of the statue. But everybody in the town loved that hideous statue, and they actually paid to have it moved to a park, and they commissioned a Chicken Boy Day in honor of that ridiculous statue. So if I'm talking to my clients and it's getting close to Chicken Boy Day and we're working on a chicken recipe, I'll say, you know what? Let's also talk about what we could do for dinner conversation about this chicken dish you're making. I said, so let's tell them the history of Chicken Boy Day. And then you could ask your family, if you were half human and half something else, what would that other half be? And why? Would you have any superpowers? What would they be? How would you use them? Now you're learning about how your child is thinking. You're also getting them to be creative in their thought process. You can say things like, you know, the townspeople where this chicken boy was thought this statue was so beloved, they raised money to keep it. What do you own now that you really cherish, that you want to have a keepsake that you can give to your family when you have one? Why is this important to you? So now you're having a whole different conversation that's unexpected, very free flowing, and now your family is starting to think. So that's just one example on how you can gear a dinner time conversation to something you're making as your meal.
That's incredible, because I know my boys, we've talked about like casually, like, okay, if you could be any superhero, what would you be? Or, you know, my boys have a tendency to come up with the would you rathers, and they're usually awkward. And I'm like, what? No, swimming in a pool of Jello or something else. And I'm like, neither. What? No, I can't swim. You know, so it's like, it's sometimes you go a little too logical as a parent. You're like, I mean, you just kind of have to play with the idea and have some fun with it. But I think that taking the dinner aspect and putting what you're making into the conversation a little more casually is super fun. Do you do more of, is it more of like a group coaching or one-on-one? Can you do both as an option?
Right now, I'm creating a group program that's going to have a co-cooking feature with it, so that as you're taking the group coaching course, you're getting dinner done. So it's not like you're only limited to looking at modules and saying, oh my God, this is so time consuming. When am I ever going to do this? You're actually going to get the recipes and the grocery list, and then we're going to cook it. So that's a group program I'm currently creating. But I do right now tons of one-on-one coaching, which obviously can be done virtually. And as part of that one-on-one coaching, there's an option to do virtual co-cooking lessons with that as well.
And so now when you talk meal plans, because I know I use meal plans, I give them to clients. I try to do, because our schedule is so tight, I try to stick to like 30-minute meals. So what kind of meals are you talking with when you're talking with clients or with anyone? Are we talking like the quick and easy 30 minutes, or are we talking like, where's my crock pot? I need more than that.
First of all, crock pots, you can just dump everything in there before you leave for the day and it's done by the time you get home. So that's actually less than a 30-minute meal because you're not there doing any of the fussing for it. So my meals are meant for people who are busy, who have no time and still want to sit down to a really delicious meal. So yeah, 30 minutes and under, absolutely. But that can be sheet pan dinners, that can be crock pot dinners, it could be one pan dinners, one pot dinners. It could be a multitude of things because truthfully, and the time it takes you to call for takeout, you could probably get your meal done before it was delivered, if you were cooking from scratch, if you know the tips and the tricks on how to do it.
That's a really great point because I was doing research recently on just like personal knowledge because I wanted to kind of give it to some clients, was the fact of like how much we spend on takeout, and yet how many people complain about the price tag of like a grocery bill per se, or like a gallon of milk. I mean, that's been a hot topic of conversation. Gallon of milk is so expensive, all of that. And yet we don't flinch about going out to dinner and spending $100 or more on dinner, but yet grocery bill of, let's say, average 250 is nauseating to some people. I mean, I tell them I feed 7 people at my house, and I'm going to say every like week and a half I go to Sam's Club is anywhere from 500 to 550.
Yep.
And I think it's just so interesting that people are astonished by that. And I was like, but it's gone. Like, it's good for you food. Like, I've shown them my cart and I'm like, 90% of this is produce. So it's going to get eaten. It's going to be made into dinners. It's this, that, and the other. We don't do a lot of red meat from stores. My husband hunts that. So I go and look at that and I'm like, I mean, hunting season versus the grocery store. I'll take hunting season. But do you notice that same thought process of a lot of people are very quick to order out, and like you said, you could have a whole dinner at least prepped well before you've even finished putting it all together on the to-go order.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, when you order a takeout meal, maybe you have leftovers, maybe you don't, but then you're eating the same thing. But if you're cooking for your family, you can batch cook. And so you're making an extra quantity of some particular part of that meal that you can, and I like to repurpose things because a lot of families have kids who don't like to have leftovers. So you can batch cook something and turn it into something else later in the week, and half your dinner's already done before you start. So a great example of that is my family loves spicy Asian meatballs, and you can make it with ground turkey, you can make it with ground chicken, you can make it with ground beef. Really, it's very adaptable. Maybe ground lamb if you want to, ground veal if you've got veal from your hunting. You make these spicy Asian meatballs with ginger and garlic, maybe sriracha sauce. You make your meatballs. I bake it because I don't like the splatter. I don't like the cleanup. Bake it for 10, 15 minutes. Your meatballs are done. I would serve it with, let's say, a bok choy with a ginger sauce, which takes 5 minutes to make. And I'd make a double batch of rice. And the reason why I'd make a double batch of rice is because later on the week, I would turn that rice into fried rice. And the reason why I do that is you need at least day-old rice to make fried rice good. Well, now my rice is already done. It takes 2 seconds to turn cooked rice into fried rice. And maybe I'd serve it with, let's say, leftover rotisserie chicken from a different meal. So my meal will take way under 30 minutes to do, and dinner done. That's 2 meals during the week with absolutely very little effort.
which is so awesome because I think we think like when we do dinners is, oh, it's got to be a leftover, right? We have to eat the same meal over again. But your concept that we're talking about is not about eating the same meal again. It's repurposing and utilizing what you've already done. I mean, my mom used to make a ham dinner, and it was one of the best things ever. Used to look forward to that when I was in college, to come home and have ham dinner. And then my mom would turn the leftover ham into the filling for pierogies. And she'd make ham pierogies for us. And then she'd take the potatoes from the potato dinner or from the ham dinner and make potato filling for the pierogies also. So she would take the whole dinner and just reconstruct it and make us all pierogies for later. And I always thought it was the coolest thing. I loved them. It was a full family experience to cook them, and it made those memories that were so positive around food, which I think so many times, and I don't know if you see this with clients, but those of us who grew up in the 90s who now have kids now, we're fighting the diet culture that was going on then. And so being able to see that dinner doesn't have to take you eternity and it doesn't have to be laborsome is such a relief. Do you notice a lot of clients feeling that same way for you, who are just like full relief when they hear that it doesn't have to take forever, but yet it can still be really good food?
Oh, it's relief. It releases the overwhelm. It relieves the stress, and it puts you in control of what goes into your body. And
100%.
it also, you can control your food costs that way. You can control food waste that way. I mean, there's so many pluses for it. And when I work with people and they say, wow, now that you broke it down for me, this was really easy. And it makes a huge difference. And one of the things I do is, besides teaching them the cooking part of it, and meal planning is different for everybody. Everybody's got different time schedules, different lifestyles. So we make a meal plan that works for somebody's particular lifestyle, a meal prep that works for somebody's particular time constraints. It's got to be Sunday, cook everything, plan everything. I don't work that way, because personally I'm not that way. If it works for you, I can teach you how to do it, but that's not me personally. But once they know these things, and one of the things I have them do is know what they have, know what they need, and know how to use it. And when they get those steps done, it opens up a world of endless variety in how to cook, as long as you know just a couple of techniques.
Which is so awesome. Now, you were mentioning how much release that gives. It gives them control, which I think that sometimes we feel a little bit like we need, especially as moms. We're used to controlling a lot, as much as we can. So taking control of what are we consuming, what are we taking in, is really powerful. I was somebody who, I have an asthmatic in my house and I have one with ADHD. So watching what they eat has been pivotal to keeping both of them off medications, out of hospitals. Controlling my oldest is the one with ADHD, and instead of medications, we've been able to control hers just by what she eats.
Yep.
And do you see and agree that there is so much power within the concept of controlling and knowing? I don't even say controlled too much, but knowing what is in your food so that you can then better take in what's best for you, and the benefit of the health benefits, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of that come with that control happening.
It's tremendously powerful. It's empowering and powerful, because if you know how your body reacts to something, you can either get more of it if your body really enjoys it, or you can reduce it or eliminate it. But you have to have an awareness. And so once you have that awareness of what works for you, what works for your family, you can grow from there, and you can expand your culinary experiences, trying different flavor combinations, different ethnic cuisines. I mean, the variety is endless, but you have to be willing to put in a little bit of time to find out what works.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, it's listening to your body, taking in the time and taking, even if it's just a small bit of time. It doesn't have to be like years worth of knowledge, but it just needs to be some sort of something. Um, Now, how long is your program? Is it more like bi-monthly? We're talking over a year. How long do we get when we work with you?
We're flexible on it. I have clients who just want to learn how to grocery shop effectively, and we can do a grocery tour, seeing what they have. I have clients who want to know what to do with what they have. I have clients who say, I'm at the beginning, help me. And you can sign up for an individual lesson. You can do a bulk 4-week lesson. You can do a bulk 3-month lesson, depending on what your needs are. We schedule the amount of courses and classes that you get based on where you are and where you want to go.
And so if we have somebody who's like, I love this, I've talked to some people who are like, I want my clients to never really need me again. Like we work once, we get it all together. Is that something you notice? A lot of people, they kind of get the gist, but they stick around just because the meals are just that awesome and they greatly enjoy it.
Some people love the camaraderie when we do things, especially if we're doing co-cooking. My ultimate goal is to have people confident enough so that they can open up their refrigerator or their pantry or their freezer and say, I know what I can do right on the spot. You're not dependent on spending countless hours down the rabbit hole looking for a chicken recipe on the internet that turns out garbagey anyway because it wasn't a good one to begin with, or it didn't fit your family's tastes and likes. So my goal is to get everybody so comfortable in the kitchen that they don't need my help, but I find that often they want to stay with my help because I'm always giving them new ideas.
And I love that you use the word confidence and that it's associated with the kitchen, because I have met so many people, myself included, at one point in time in my life where this, I would hate to say it, but the kitchen was the least confident place I was. I just never felt fully confident in myself and my own. I don't know. I couldn't open the pantry and figure something out. I couldn't open the fridge and feel comfortable just winging a dinner. But I love that you talk about confidence within the kitchen, because when we can, or at least at my house, we think the kitchen is the heart of the home. That is where a lot of people come. When we open our doors to people, they all just congregate in our kitchen. And when you can feel comfortable and confident in your kitchen, it's shown, it's seen, it's felt, because the meal isn't just blonde boring. My mom used to say all the time, or I would tell her, I was like, Mom, you just make a better sandwich than I do for my lunches. Can you just make me one? And my stepdad joked one day and he was like, it was because your mom makes it with love. And I was like, that is the corniest thing I have ever heard in my life. But it was the idea of, one, I wasn't making it, but two, it was from my mom. Like it was my mom putting it together. It was the love that she had for me. And when you can show that love, you can create the memories, just like you're saying, of
I have to say,
how much.
I've had my kids cook with me since they were little. I think that's really important. And I have since from day one taught them that the secret ingredient in anything you make is love. And if you were to ask my kids what's the secret ingredient, what mom just made, they'd say love, because it really is. And I'm a firm believer in the food tastes better when you cook it with love and enjoyment. It just does.
It really does. That's a truly powerful thing that I think we just forget. It's that old school mentality. We've kind of gotten away from sharing recipes. And I know we just recently my mom did, when we turned 18 or we left the house, she made us, hand wrote us cookbooks of all the different recipes that were like family ones or,
Wow.
hand me downs. And it was stuff that my brother and I still to this day, we've been out of the house for quite some years now. We both treasure, we both cherish these recipes. We use them all the time. We're adding to the books of recipes that we love and have found so that we can make them for our own kids. And I think we all kind of have forgotten, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at least I feel like we've all forgotten the joy of family togetherness, of the tradition around food and the joy that it can bring. And how, like, I know we've all sat there at a Thanksgiving dinner, right? We've all had one where it was like, just the joy of being at Thanksgiving with family and the fun. But why do we have to wait until just Thanksgiving to have that same thing when we can have it every night, all the time?
That's what I'm all about. That's the atmosphere and the environment that I think family meals should have. And I live in the real world, and I have kids who had a million after school activities, and dinner with these are late or stressed or whatever it was. I understand that. Not everybody can do a sit down family meal 7 nights a week, but maybe you could do it a couple of nights a week and do a Sunday brunch. It doesn't always have to be dinner. It's that family time that's so precious, because we all wear different hats during the day. Either you're the good, well-behaved student in class because you have to be, or you're the hard worker at the office, with all kinds of responsibility. And we're never given the chance to just let our hair down and be ourselves. So why not give your family that opportunity at the dinner table?
So what advice do you have for anybody who's feeling a little less than confident in the kitchen? What are some like starter tips or advice that you would give for somebody who's just trying to make the kitchen not so laborsome for them?
Don't put so much stress on yourself. A meal doesn't have to be an A+ meal every single time. Don't compare yourself to other cooks, other moms. Start where you are. If you know how to make one good recipe, you're ahead of the game. So start with a success. Maybe it's you learn how to chop garlic. Maybe you learn how to chop an onion. You got to start somewhere. And when you get a couple of small victories under your belt and know how to put those victories together, your confidence is going to build. And when you see a little good reaction from your family at mealtime, you're going, wow, maybe that wasn't so horrible, And if you do get a bad reaction at the dinner table, this is something I teach everybody to do, because everybody's got different tastes. Their kids have different tastes, different moods. Let's say you're experimenting on a dinner and you put it on the table and you say, how is it? And everybody just like groans, it's horrible, Mom, you're really terrible. I don't do that. I go to the dinner table and I'm constantly recreating things just because I like to recreate things. And I'll say, is it a thumbs up or a thumbs down? And if they give me a thumbs up, yay, it was a success. That's fantastic. If I get a thumbs down, I don't take it as a negative comment, because I think you always need to be learning. And so I say, okay, how can I make it better next time? So now I'm telling my family, this isn't the only time they're going to see it. And now I'm telling them that I value their opinions. I'm asking them to evaluate their taste process. Was it a texture change? Was it a spice change? Was it an ingredient change? Tell me what I could do differently next time. And then the next time I make it, I'll incorporate some of those changes, because now I'm validating their opinion. And then we all get to say, well, did it work? Did it not? What else can we do? So there's never a downside if you approach dinner time with the right attitude.
Which is so, so fun, because I stopped doing that same thing. Do we like dinner? How was dinner kind of a thing? I started doing a little bit more of like, if I'm trying out a different recipe or something, I'll always do a keep it or ditch it. And sometimes like we've tried recipes. My husband's like, that's like a 3 out of 5. And I'm like, okay, so we can modify, right? We're not at a 1, we're not ditching it. And other times they're like, no, this was just no part of this was good. And you're like, okay, well, that was great. Like,
At
good
least
to
you
know,
tried.
right?
At least you tried.
Exactly. And I think that's something that it's showing our kids to not be scared of the kitchen, or to be scared to maybe make a mess up.
Not only that, but not to be scared to try something new, not to be
Right.
scared to learn, not to be scared to learn from your mistakes. They all go hand in hand, which are incredibly empowering lessons for your kids to see that, well, it wasn't the end of the world for you. You can go on. I think those are really powerful messages that you can give.
Yes. And do you encourage the kids to be part of the cooking process? Because I know some days I'm like, yes, I want you all in this process. And other days I am like, can we just, this would be so much easier if I didn't have a small person's hand in the way. But I try to bring, personally, I try to bring the kids in. One, it teaches them cooking skills because there's not always going to be a day where mom's cooking your meals. So you need to be able to, like, I don't know what a knife is and know how to cook food. But do you encourage like creating together, or is it, do you notice that it's just easier sometimes to just bring it to the dinner table?
Well, of course, sometimes it's easier for you to just do it on your own. But I'm really a firm believer in teaching your kids the skills that they're going to need to make them independent, to make them healthy, to make them successful, and to give them the skills to be nourishing to their family when they have one. So if
Mm.
you're not modeling those skills, they're not going to get them. So I highly encourage it. And I also tell people, for people who have quote unquote picky eaters, and I don't really like the term, but kids who are selective eaters, the more you engage them in the process, the more they have skin in the game. And so they're less likely to be resistant to what you're cooking. So go to a farmer's market, talk to the vendors, say, oh, I've never seen this vegetable. How do I make it? Have your kids pick out
Mm.
something they've never eaten before and make it a challenge for everybody to try something new. Give them a stake in the game, and the game will be that much more fun and more valuable for everyone.
So how do you deal with that picky eater?
So, again, engage them in the buying of the ingredients, selecting of the recipes. And my kids knew that just because they didn't like it doesn't mean they weren't going to see it again. So let's try to see what we can do differently about it. I also find that when you are having fun at the dinner table, the focus is now removed from the food and now it's on the fun. So if they're hungry, even if they're not a fan of what you made, if they are enjoying everybody's company and playing along with whatever it is that you're playing at the dinner table that night, that food's going to get eaten. So sometimes the games are just a distraction to get the food in your kids.
I love that concept because sometimes we just need to distract. I know
Absolutely.
plenty of times where my kids are like, but I don't want to. I don't want to, and it's, if I can, sometimes it's a matter of just sitting down with them, and they see me eating, so they'll eat. Other times it's a matter of truly just having conversation, and then look, all of a sudden the plate's empty. So
Or you could do something as simple as, okay, well, this is what I made tonight. You pick out what we're going to make tomorrow night. Again, you're empowering them in a different way.
I think if I asked my children to make dinner, it would be mac and cheese, but that's just me.
Always.
They would be all for mac and cheese and chicken nuggets, especially if they're dino nuggets. I mean, I don't know how much nutritional content we'd be getting out of some of these meals, but I think it's just truly amazing the power that food can have on a family, both in the mental and physical aspect of like actually consuming it, removing some of the processed things that other places might have, but also just the joy and memories that are associated to it and can create those core memories and bonds that are truly inseparable. I'm 35 and I still love cooking and baking with my mom. It's just a thing. I will always know my mom and I will know the joy of my mom's kitchen. And I want that same thing for my own kids, that they know, like my kids look at Grammy and they go, Grammy brings me, the desserts and the fun, and why we shouldn't be still having that fun even when we're busy.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always time. And if you think about it, how much time do you spend on social media? Probably
Mm.
way more than you should. So you don't look at every single Facebook post from somebody you knew 15 years ago, and spend that 15 minutes making your dinner. You'll get much more pleasure out of it.
That's such a good point. So good. But Miss Linda, it's been amazing. And I really want everybody to be able to have this confidence that you bring to the kitchen. So how do they get a hold of you, get in touch with you, or get going on growing this confidence?
Absolutely. I think you're going to be posting in the notes to the podcast a link where they can get an ebook of mine. So if they sign up for the ebook, they will become on my newsletter list, and they'll be able to reach out to me that way. Plus, they'll get all the goodies I write every week, all the suggestions. I have a Facebook group, Easy Weeknight Dinners for Busy Moms. Everybody's welcome to join. It's a lot of fun. We have recipes, we have laughter, we're self-deprecating, because you can't take it so seriously. You have to have fun with your life. I have an Instagram, balaboostas.secret. You can always reach out to me at linda@balaboostasecret.com.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for everything, Miss Linda. It's been truly, truly empowering and exciting. I know I have taken some notes and taken some tips because I want some more fun at our kitchen table. It doesn't need to be so boring all the time. So thank you so much for being here and just sharing your joy for the kitchen with everyone.
Oh, it's been a real pleasure. And I really look forward to learning about your audience and having them reach out and become part of mine as well. We all deserve
Uh,
to live a luscious life.
oh, guys, follow along for, make sure you're following Miss Linda and go find out those informations. Get your ebook because you're not going to want to miss out on that one. On top of making sure you're following along for the podcast for more incredible guests like Miss Linda, who are going to share how to change your life and create that strong foundation for you. Thank you again, Miss Linda, and we appreciate you.
Thanks.